It must be said that the settings for this film are something truly captivating. The location scouting really paid off. While watching this movie, be sure to take in the sights and the scenery while they last. Rather than jump full bore into the horror, I'm happy to see the film take its time introducing the characters and establishing the family tension over life in the sticks. It restores my faith in humanity to not have propped up caricatures or teenage stereotypes to endure for a runtime of 120 minutes, like most horror fare these days. Nick Cage is tolerable. He plays a father just trying to make farm living work now that his family has made it out of city life. His wife is a career woman trying to return to the normalcy of work and family time post-cancer surgery. The youngest son, whom you'll recognize from Netflix's Haunting of Hill House, is a cute kid with his Hubble telescope glasses. He's a bit withdrawn, staring aimlessly at times. His daydreaming soon enough will turn nightmarish. The daughter's appropriately angsty without being aggravating. The pothead older brother is the weak link, with not really much to him. Again, I'm relieved to be presented with flesh and blood characters with real-world concerns. Oh, and Tommy Chung of Cheech and Chong fame will be playing the role of Stoner Gandalf. You'll forgive the pun, but when a star inevitably falls from the skies, the resultant fallout is nothing short of otherworldly. I found it interesting that, as the meteor is crash landing, one brother slips out of a vegetative coma, and the other seemingly picks up the slack. One night after its arrival, lightning repeatedly strikes the rock, as if drawing power to itself. The day following the crash, once news reporters show up, the meteor has already vanished, appearing to have receded into the Earth. No doubt settling in and making itself at home. Or making itself a home. After the tear from the heavens above rains down onto the farmland, a visiting hydrologist the daughter met at the beginning is the first to find that all is not well in the state of Dunwich. Oh, it's a girl meteor. He has the distinction of being the first to make contact. The surveyor, already having discovered strange findings in the water samples, now sees ghostly emanations and sounds at his campsite. No doubt is left in his mind over what he's seeing with his eyes, that something is very wrong. While others stand in disbelief or shrug off in denial the unexplainable, he instead has his deductive reasoning to rely on, which is such an offensive stereotype in these films. Black guy being all practical. In a horror movie! I like how everyone reacts to the effects of the meteor in different ways. No two mind jobs are alike. The father, from the moment of its landing, can't shake the stench of a persistent odor that seemingly only he senses. The mother finds spoiled and pilfered food and gets lost in thought before, during, and after injuring herself. When the youngest son isn't staring into the distance, he's hearing voices from a foreboding position on the farm grounds, hinting at what lies below. The eldest son and daughter lose track of time while she becomes physically ill. The typical setup, also known as cliches, in horror films is that the cars previously in working condition suddenly won't start, or your phone with full bars can't get a signal at the exact split second that you need them. This creates an eye-rolling boredom in your audience because not only is it convenient that the one machine that can save the day doesn't work, creating artificial isolation, but it's something you've seen 100 times. In this movie, however, you know that there is a source for the disturbances. You just don't know what it is. You don't know if its arrival is something random or by ritual. if it was imagined or if it's alive. Therefore, when electronic devices only give off static feedback, the local wildlife is noticeably altered. When a child is seemingly staring at nothing but you know it's really something, you don't have the straight answers as to whether this is happening by coincidence or by intention. Two scenes in particular I found disquieting. Firstly, the sight of smaller animals like bugs and lizards affected by the meteor. To me, it both represented the calm before the storm and symbolized the family, as moths to the flame. The other was the stoner squatter actually hearing something in the static. Voices. The use of fog and light set the mood well for this film and work in tandem with the ethereal color to craft the right tone, equal parts classic gothic and Lovecraftian neon. One particular skin-crawling scene of note is the father has a nice surprise waiting for him upon arriving home from the hospital with his wife. The subtle aesthetic changes in the plant life was a good use of restraint so as not to go overboard with the dread that's creeping its way ever closer to the family. The father makes the mistake of biting into every one of the fruits that he picked, which I took as a metaphor for the unspeakable presence feeding on his sanity, biting chunks out of his mind. The hallucination of the scaly, leathery skin was good foreshadowing for the body horror to come. The effect on the lawn is so daunting because it's so alluring. Every blade of grass making its own promise of the terrors in store. A purple brick road heading towards Oz. The hues emanating from the foliage give off an equally haunting beauty that's just as bewitching at dusk as they are at dawn. The same can't be said of the larger animal life touched by this presence. The acting by the mother in her darkest hour is a job well done to convey the sheer terror that she goes through. The use of sound in her performance is every bit as important as the visuals. And this is all I will reveal about this movie's plot. Also, Stoner Gandalf is a pretty pointless character. Two brief asides. Firstly, I found it interesting that they filmed the movie on haunted ground. Welcome to Sintra, Portugal, a city known for its cave system, deep wells, ruined cathedrals, Gothic castles. They certainly spared no expense setting the tone to give their setting a character to go with their mood lighting. Secondly, in the special features, I found it encouraging that Richard Stanley wasn't shy about sharing the fact that he hasn't even directed a movie in over 2 decades. This might sound strange as the praise on my part for a director that's been out of the game for 20 plus years makes his hiring seem like movie makers trying to fill the director's chair on the cheap. However, to get an idea of this man's visual style and creativity, I would direct you to Lost Soul, the doomed journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau, a documentary that's definitely worth a watch. You've probably noticed my vagueness surrounding the film's plot and fear factor. Just know that this is the type of movie that works best with an audience going in blind and is best served by a reviewer giving a solid recommendation without a single spoiler. Now that for the first time we've seen a solid Lovecraft movie, can we stop pretending that all these other exaggerated wannabes fit the bill? Annihilation, The Void, Banshee Chapter, Netflix's The Ritual. No, folks. Those were movies inspired by Lovecraft. Lovecraftian horror is not a guarantee of quality, you see. Even in the making of Special Feature, the filmmakers admitted it as well as Richard Stanley himself.
We had been looking for a Lovecraft adaptation, something that took the genre, a little more seriously.
I've been of the belief that although he's been so often adapted, he's really almost never been adapted authentically. I mean, I think over 100 of his stories had been adapted to film. There really wasn't a single one that truly captured the terror of his writing.
I've always wanted better Lovecraft adaptations, but not a lot of, in terms of official adaptations, that's really gone after the core issues, the cosmic horror within the material.
So you have producers and director saying the same thing. If that reality check offends anyone's delicate sensibilities...
And you ain't black.
So let me get this straight. The talented men who A, were unbiased enough to make this obvious observation, and B, made the first consistent and faithful Lovecraft film, wouldn't be any authority of what passes for success. Sure, they're the ones that are wrong, and you're the ones that are right. Right? Gotcha. So, in closing, watch Richard Stanley's Color Out of Space. It's the best Lovecraft you'll watch all year.